The Human Development Index. Do you know it? Let's get into it. So today we're going to look at what the Human Development Index is, what it consists of, how it's used to compare between countries, and the advantages and disadvantages. So let's crack on. Do you know the difference between economic growth and economic development? Usually when we think of economic growth, we look at GDP. GDP is the total production of goods and services, and we look at whether it's increasing or decreasing every year. That will imply that we're growing as an economy. But there's so many things outside of that that are important as well to show different kinds of growth. And that's where the Human Development Index kicks in. But basically, economic growth, as we know, is the production of goods and services, like I just said. But economic development, it's more about human well-being, quality of life. We need to account for and measure this. So many economies don't just focus on one thing, they focus on both, okay? What's the point in having great economic growth if there's so much pollution everywhere that your people are getting sick? So the Human Development Index is a way to actually compare economic development. How well are people really living in these countries? It's pretty interesting, so let's have a look into it. So the first component then is knowledge. How many years is your average citizen going to be in school for? A few years ago, the UK changed the rule from 16 to 18 years when you're allowed to leave. This frustrated a lot of people that wanted to get straight into working and earning some money and looking after themselves. But generally, the UK and Europe try to educate their citizens for a really long period of time. In some other countries, that's absolutely not the case. How about you check online and find out how many years of schooling you have in your country? Let's have a little comparison. So the winner of this game is Switzerland, 13.4 years average, really, really high. Hong Kong's up there as well, surprisingly. Then if we look at the bottom of the list, we have lots of African countries. These countries are really struggling to develop. Hopefully over the next 10-20 years, we can push up these numbers and get more people in school for longer periods of time. The next factor is lifespan. How long are people living? This is a massive indicator. If your medical services are really good, people are going to live longer, aren't they? If the diet of your people is really good, people are going to live longer. There's lots of reasons that can cause premature death, but it is an indicator of development and quality of life. Have a look at the life expectancy here over the last couple of hundred years. Most data was starting to be recorded at the end of 1850, but we can see statistically lifespans have increased significantly over the last 100 years, with Europe being the top for average lifespan, hitting well over 80. This means the average person can have 15-20 years of chill retirement. What a great life. By the time I'm retirement age, I expect there will only be a means-tested pension. Don't know if you've heard of that idea, but if you've got too much money in the bank, you won't be getting any back regardless of your contributions. So sad. So sad. All right, next. Final one is standards of living. So they basically take the gross national income, the average income per person from a country, and they adjust it for PPP. Have you heard of that idea? It's purchase power parity. It basically means how strong is your money. For example, if I order Chinese noodles in England, it's going to cost me about 15 British pounds. If I order those same noodles while living in China, it will cost me around £2. So buying food in China is a fraction of the price of buying food in England, meaning even if I have a lower salary in China, it still has a higher purchase power than it might have in the UK. So we need to adjust for that. We need to look at the real strength of the average person's money. And quickly, another concept that we can look at with this is the idea of a Big Mac. Just the basic idea should be this, right? If I go and buy a Big Mac in America and it's $2, this Big Mac should be pretty much $2 in every country I go to, and the exchange rate should reflect that. But we know that's not always the case. So the price of a Big Mac actually can be higher or lower in loads of different countries for a multitude of reasons. And this is why it should be the case, right? So let's say coffee in Spain is £2.50 and coffee in Africa is £2. So what a smart businessman would do, buy the coffee, we can see the businessman bought more coffee in Africa. Therefore, the price of coffee went up in Africa. They took it over to Spain. They sell it in Spain. Look what happens to the supply. It increases. So now it's £2.25, £2.25 in both countries. This is the general theory of why it should be that way. However, it's not. See, the price is equaled out. Gosh, that AI burger looks yummy. So actually, let's go into it a little bit. What things do you think can affect PPP across the world? Why isn't it perfect? Why isn't the price of everything the same everywhere? Let me show you. Inflation. Inflation is different in different countries. If inflation is 10% in England, so prices are going up by 10%, it might only be 3% in Norway. So the price increases are at different rates. Employment levels. Unemployment means businesses are not making much money. Consequently, they might reduce their prices to sell more stock. higher average wages. If you've got high wages and people have more, higher wages, if people have more income and they have more money available to spend at the end of the month, disposable income, they're going to be able to buy more of these burgers. Exchange rates, they keep changing all the time because people keep coming and going. There's loads of reasons why more people go to a country or more people leave a country or people buy from here and sell from there. And what about credit? Do the people in your country have access to easy credit? Can they get credit cards easily? Or is it like Fort Knox, really difficult to borrow from anywhere? Then, of course, think about the tariffs from Donald Trump that we've seen recently and how that affects different countries. All these things make the situation imperfect, where the price is never as equal as we see in this basic example. Okay, take a look at this. So which country do you think has the highest price of a Big Mac? Let's have a look. Look at that. Switzerland, did you guess Europe? So expensive. And look at Venezuela. A fraction of the price, around 25-30% of the price. We'll have to get over there for a holiday, won't we? When the political situation is a bit more stable. So when we're considering PPP, can you find out the GNI of your country, the gross national income, the average income of everybody from the country, before and after the adjustments? You can use AI for this. That's what I did. Take a look. So what we can see with really expensive countries like Switzerland, the average income is really high, right? But because things are so expensive in Switzerland, when we adjust for PPP, we actually remove some of the value of that money. So this value here is more representative because everything's so expensive over there. But places like Burundi or Afghanistan, where prices in the street are so cheap, even though their salary is very low, it goes further. So the value is increased here. So just take a look at that concept and try and understand it. All right, moving forward. There are 3 classifications for HDI, and it's just very simple numbers. The value is between 0 and 1. So if your rating is between 0 and 0.5, you're considered to have a low human development. 0.5 to 0.8, we're looking at a medium human development, and 0.8 plus, looking at high human development. Which countries do you think would score the highest for this and why? Let's take a guess. Let me show you. Number 1, Switzerland, smashing the game. We already know they've got a high education level. Norway, Iceland, surprisingly, right close to the top as well. And Hong Kong. Australia, sadly, England is not on there. But look at those at the bottom. Look at Mozambique. Wow, look at the life expectancy. In many African countries, the life expectancy is so low, and they have a really young population. Education index, the time in education is quite low in these countries and very, very long in these countries. And here, income index. You can see that their income, even when adjusted, is still really, really high comparatively compared to these countries. Quite interesting, right? So we can see these countries here fall below the 0.5 threshold, and these countries are well above the threshold for being a highly developed country. So what are some limitations of this model? These are really important for your exams, these type of questions. Can you pause the video and have a think? Let me show you. Sometimes it can be oversimplified. What about social justice? Political freedom. Are you allowed to say what you want against the leader? This is often a defining question of whether a country and its citizens are really free. What about the weighting? They've given an equal rating of 33.3% reoccurring for each of the 3 components. But what if you believe long life is more important than schooling, or schooling is more important than income? These are things we have to consider. And finally, what about the quality of the data? We have to make sure the government is providing good enough data for us and not fudging the numbers. All really important points. And one really important one is about sustainability in the environment. How are we making sure that the environment is clean and not polluted? There's no measurement of that there. So it could have some more variables to enhance it. Okay, so before I go, just make sure you can jot down the 3 measurements for HDI in your head. Make sure you understand them and make sure you can criticize it. All right, that's it from me. Have a great day and I'll see you all again.